What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Happy New Year! Welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm Skratch. In today's video, guys, we're gonna review every single one of the Void epic champions that we have in the game. We have the 2x on Voids going on at the moment, and on top of it, you might be pulling a lot of epic champions, and you're wondering, like, should I keep every single one of them? Which one of them could I use as food? Now, the very first advice I would give you is make sure you're filling up your faction guardians for epic champions, guys, and then you're gonna be able to kind of like get rid of some of them. There are champions that are not worth building, even though they are Void epics, are just not worth it. They don't deserve the title. So we're quickly gonna try to review every single one of the Void epic champions that we have in the game. I'm gonna try to be brief with them, kind of like give you guys ideas on where to use them, how to use them. I'm not really gonna go over their kits because you're gonna be able to kind of like click on the champion and see all that by yourself. Now, if you're kind of like early game, mid game, end game, that's another thing that you gotta take in consideration when you are considering if any of these champions are worth it for you or no. Some of them are great for clan boss, but they're easy replaceable. Some of them good for faction wars, some of them good for dungeons, etc. We're gonna start with the very first faction, and that is the Bannerlords. Now, if you guys enjoy the content, guys, I would really appreciate it if you smash that like, subscribe to the channel. I'm doing daily content on raid guides for beginners, mid-game players, end-game players, pretty much for everyone. I'm trying to keep it pretty diverse on the channel. And make sure you click on that bell to turn on notifications so you see when the next video is going live. We're gonna start with no one else but Rowan. She used to be pretty bad. She got a bit of a buff a few months ago, maybe 1 year ago, since she became a pretty good champion. When we are talking about a budget man-eater team, she can be a great stun target. She brings in poisons. That's kind of like her specialty. 4 poisons right here. And yeah, that's pretty much what she does. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. The rest of the kit won't really benefit you as much. Even though she has multi-hits on the A2, A3, the A1 is a single hit. Heal reduction is not that amazing for the Fire Knight dungeon, but you can definitely use her early on for progression. Azure, this is one of the champions that it definitely needs a bit of a buff. It's an HP-based champion, pretty good base stats. Now, I wouldn't use this champion anywhere else except Faction Wars. With the A1, he doesn't really do much. A bit of a stun in there. We have ally protection, we have a shield on a 4-turn cooldown. There are many other champions that can do better stuff than he does. They're epic champions as well, and not all of them are Voids. And right here, just places an extra hit if the target has a stun after he places the first one. And it's honestly nothing too crazy. It's decent for Faction Wars, don't get me wrong, but if you're covered there, you already have the team for Faction Wars. This right here is a fodder in my opinion. Warcaster, great for block damage. Now, he only has the block damage for 1 turn. He could potentially be used with other block damage or unkillable champions to create a clan boss team. Or if you guys saw the War Crusher comp that I've done like a couple of years ago with him, Renegade, a Skull Crusher, Seeker, and a DPS, you can use him for a team like that as well. Definitely a pretty solid champion, and if you pull him, I would definitely suggest you to keep at least one of the copies. He has block buffs, and the A1 has a chance to steal some random buffs. Crit rate aura for Void champions. Then we have Ursula the Mourner. She's such an amazing support champion, guys. 100% a must 6-star for every account, regardless of how endgame you are or no. She will definitely serve a use on everyone's account. Doesn't matter how long ago you started playing the game or no. The base stats are not that amazing on the champion. We have a speed aura for Doom Tower, and on the A1 she has a chance to decrease the turn meter. We have decrease attack and increase attack. That's AoE as well. Definitely very, very powerful because it buffs your team, it debuffs the enemies, and we have a strong revive right here. Revives all that allies with 75% HP. Turn meter, increased defense, and strengthen. A massive carry when we are talking about support. Revivers, great for dungeons, Doom Tower. Even great for Hydra if you don't have other crazy champions available. Moving over to the next faction, and that is the High Elves. Right here we have 3 Void epic champions, and I feel like 2 of them are really OG. They really need a bit of a rework. They got power crap. Like, we have Battle Sage, AoE on the A1. On the A2, increase attack, removes all debuffs. We don't have block debuffs after, so we're not getting immunity. And the whole idea with this is that it's not that useful in arena. okay? It's not really gonna benefit you a lot. Not that useful for PvE content either. And we have a revive on that on a single target ally. I can't really recommend you guys to 6-star a battle stage in 2023. Speed aura for all battles, that's pretty much it. If you really are early on and you're struggling with arena, she might give you a bit of a help in there with the increased attack, the speed aura, but that's kind of like about it. Exemplar. Now, I've tested Exemplar not a long time ago in Clan Boss. She was putting in some serious work in terms of damage. Compared to other epic champions, I feel like, yeah, her, Aina, and a few others are very similar in terms of damage. But she doesn't really do anything else. Like, she got buffed quite a few times, and you see her base stats are not that amazing. She doesn't really have great survivability. She could potentially be decent for Faction Wars, attacks one enemy 2 times. Decent for the Fire Knight if you're looking at progression, because the A2 as well is a triple hit, sorry, and this skill right here has a chance to place a freeze, block active skills. Good for Faction Wars, right? Fire Knight progression, that's kind of like what I see out of her. If you're lacking DPS champions for unkillable teams and you don't have poisoners or anything like that, she can definitely fill in the spot for a while till you get some better champions. The next one is Andrisia. She is, on the other hand, a pretty strong epic champion, and I kind of like her, you know, like, she's not being used too much by the people, but we have quite a few nice things. Decreased crit damage can be nice. A stun right here for a 2-turn can be great for Faction Wars, great for Arena if you're looking to crowd control some specific champions, considering that she's Void as well. And here, she has a chance to decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns, and increases the duration of the increased defense. She has a passive where she actually lands ally protection, so she's gonna offer you some support, a strengthen. It's not gonna be placed on the champion, but she's gonna be good to help other champions to stay alive. Like, think about Necrate. It's hard to compare this one with Necrate, you know, but kind of like cut Necrate's passive in half, and she's gonna do some of that work. Not as powerful, of course, but she can definitely assist your team quite a bit in early game, mid game, even in end game in some cases, you know. So a pretty decent epic champion. Faction Wars, dungeons, arena. Sacred Order. Now here we have a few more, and some of the most powerful Void epic champions in the game. We have Cardinal. She is a massive reviver, guys. Like, she's the only champion in the game that can revive your entire team with maximum turn meter. That means that it doesn't matter if you have 100 speed on the champions that are getting revived and the opponent has 500 speed, your champions will get the turn before the opponents, because their turn meter is maxed. The only champion in the game that can do that. Amazing for Arena. Run her on a Stone Skin set or something that will keep her alive while the rest of the team is gonna die, and you're gonna be able to beat a lot of speed teams that you weren't able to beat before. Not so powerful for dungeons and other PvE content, but she can definitely work as a bit of a support for progression if you're lacking other revivers. Lightsworn. Now he actually got a bit of a value surge with a new dungeon with the Sand Devil's Necropolis. We have attack down from the champion on the A2, decreased speed, and we have increased defense and revive on that on all allies on a 4-turn cooldown. This can be fairly decent for progression in dungeons, okay, if you're looking for some support. For Arena is not that powerful, okay, so I wouldn't really count him in as a decent Arena champion. Even though he can do some work if you don't have better options, he's not really one of the top Arena champions. But how I mentioned, for the Sand Devil's Necropolis, he can actually be pretty good to tank the initial hit from the boss. Inquisitor Shamael. Now, he is one of a kind as well because of his passive that kind of like negates the fear and true fear on all the allies. Super powerful for Hydra clan boss when the Head of Torment is in play, because he's constantly gonna boost the turn meter of your lead. Awesome champion. He can deal some solid damage as a sniper with this skill right here. Attacks one enemy 3 times, will ignore 25% of the target's defense, and a further 25% for each buff on the champion. The more buffs, you're going to be able to get him to 100% ignore defense. Can be very nasty if you're looking to snipe specific champions in Faction Wars. Waves on Doom Tower if you're struggling with some high-end waves, you know, like Rotose, Sifis and stuff like that. He can definitely put in some work. Moving over to the next one, Godseeker Oniri, one of my most favorite epic champions in the entire game. On the A1, she just gives a bit of a heal. With the A2, heals all the team, increases the duration of all buffs, and decreases the duration of all buffs on enemies by 1 turn. But what makes her so unique is the passive and the revive. Revives a dead ally with 50% HP, some turn meter, and resets all their skills, okay? That's amazing. And the passive kind of like stops somebody from dying. You know, like it brings them back to life instantly. Like with the revive on that, we're getting more healing. She is massive, pretty much in a lot of endgame content. Doom Tower bosses, on the Bommel. If you need a Sand Devil's Necropolis Reviver, Godseeker Oniri can actually carry pretty much any DPS on the Sand Devil's Necropolis dungeon, guys, because of her passive and the revive skill. You're going to be able to duo every stage for that dungeon with her. Moving over to the next faction, we have the Barbarians. Here we have 3 Void Epic Champions. Now, Harken, Great Blade, I can't even remember what she does, so we're quickly going to check a bit her kit. Attack-based champion. She doesn't have amazing survivability, but pretty good attack for an epic champion. Attacks one enemy, places an extra hit if the attack is critical. We have a chance to land the weaken before attacking. And attacks one enemy, applies a debuff spread, and is spreading in onto all the enemies. Of course, only 2 debuffs. That's kind of like how it works. I don't think she deals a lot of damage. I haven't really used the champion at all. She could potentially provide a bit of help on faction wars if you're looking for some damage. But other than that, I wouldn't invest in this champion whatsoever in the current state. If you need her for the faction guardians, to get extra stats for the rest of them, keep 2 copies. If no, it's always good to keep a copy of each one of the champions, guys, because you never know when they're getting a bit of a buff, you know. Suwai Firstborn. Now, she's pretty good as well for Unkillable Clan Boss team. She can do some solid damage. Like, think about the Bad Eater comp. She brings in a defense down. She brings in a decrease attack. She brings in weaken. Now, decrease attack is not going to be beneficial for what we need on that specific Clan Boss team. But if we need a decrease attack AoE on waves, she can actually do the job pretty well on a 3-turn cooldown. Then we're getting a defense down. We're getting a weaken. She smacks pretty hard, so she's not a bad champion at all. Her base stats are not that amazing. She could potentially be pretty solid for the dragon if you need some help in there. If you need some help on other dungeons, Doom Tower or secret rooms maybe, faction wars, definitely a pretty solid option, you know. Skytouch Shaman, an amazing support champion. Now, this is a tricky pony because you kind of want to build her on immunity early on. If not, her passive is kind of like gonna mess up everything. She kind of like is a dumb champion. She places Sphere or Decrease Speed on herself, you know. But leaving that on the side, like we have clans, we have block debuffs and revive on that on a 4-turn cooldown. Very powerful for arena. Very powerful for the Sand Devil's Necropolis. Not good for clan boss because of the passive, but she can be very solid for faction wars, considering that she's actually gonna support your team with the clans, with the healing. She has a lot of healing from the passive too on your team. The A1 as well gives a bit of a healing, but nothing too crazy. HP aura for all battles. I used to love Skytouch Shaman for arena Ghost second teams before. You can even use her in 3v3 now. So definitely a pretty solid epic champion. Moving over to the next faction, the Ogryn Tribes. Now, here we have 5 Void Epic Champions. Man-Eater, I don't have to mention it, guys. Amazing for Unkillable Clan Boss teams. Great for turn meter manipulation on the Fire Knight or the Spider Dungeon if needed. If you need him for faction wars, you can cheese that with Unkillable. If you need him for a campaign stage, like a Nightmare campaign, the last stage, you can actually cheese Mortu Macabre with Unkillable. It's just bringing a lot of stuff. Attack down, great for many places, including secret rooms in the Doom Tower as well. And arena, you can actually use him for arena too if you want to. Moving over to the next one, we have Towering Titan, a champion that really needs a bit of a rework. He's been like this for quite a while. Definitely doesn't bring anything special to the team for a Void Epic champion. He's an HP based one, and increased defense on all allies on a 4-turn cooldown with a continuous heal is not that amazing. It does grant the extra turn, which it could knock it down to a 3-turn cooldown, but then he is losing the buffs already, so it's not that great. Attacks 4 times at random, a chance to land a provoke. Not great for Fire Knight. Just, he could be decent for faction wars if you need something there, but still, I would not recommend anyone to build this champion. Skrank, actually an awesome addition, newish addition, I would say like this. Great for the Spider Dungeon. HP burn right here, AoE. he's gonna melt the spider. I've actually made a guide on this champion a while ago. Very interesting there, you know, like, I haven't tried him in clan boss to be like, okay, he smacks super hard. I've seen other people trying him there, and I'm not very impressed with his damage for clan boss. He has a chance to land the weaken right here. It gets a bit of a heal, increase attack, and the passive increases the champion's attack and crit damage every time a HP burn debuff triggers on any enemy, stacking up to 25%. Even like that, it still doesn't feel like he deals insane damage, you know, but super powerful for the spider dungeon. You can definitely use him on Hydra as well for HP burn if you don't have better options. Maybe on a Doom Tower if you need HP burn too, because it does drop a lot of damage, you know. Moving over to the next one, we have Prandar. He needs so many books, this champion. Like, look at all that. So many books, okay? He's not a bad champion, though. He's not a bad champion. He can be definitely pretty good for Faction War because of the provoke. He's a crowd control champion. Let me just put it like that. Defense base, he's pretty tanky. He buffs quite a bit. Great for Doom Tower waves if needed, secret rooms, and how I mentioned, Faction Wars. And even dungeons for progression if you need help on the waves, you know. The next one, Ogryn. He can still solo some dungeons, do some work on stage 20. We have poisons on the A1. We have a cleanse on an ally and a bit of a heal. And here, poisons and continuous heals on all allies. Of course, the poisons go on enemies on a 4-turn cooldown, speed aura for all battles. Great champion for progression. You know, he's definitely going to help you quite a bit, regardless where you want to use him. Clan boss, faction wars, waves, dungeons. He can definitely serve his purpose pretty well. Moving over to the Lizardmen. Right here we have two Void Epic champions. One of them is a fusion, so everyone can actually fuse this champion as many times as you guys want. And early on, if you don't manage to pull any sort of strong support champions, Broadmine is actually going to be very powerful. I'm using my Broadmine Faction Wars. We have a chance to land a freeze on the A1, increase crit rate, increase speed on all allies, fills the thermometer on a 3-turn cooldown, revives to dead allies with block damage. Pretty nice. And I'm using him on secret rooms for the Lizardman, and I think I'm using him in another secret room as well, but I can't really remember which one of them. He can definitely be a pretty strong progression champion. Then we have Skratch. Awesome epic champion. I just wish his passive would work similar with the Skull Crown. On the A1 he has a chance to land decreased speed. Then attacks all enemies, has a chance to remove a random buff, to steal a random buff. And you have a cleanse and block debuffs and a shield on a 4-turn cooldown. Great as a cleanser if needed for a Doom Tower, for Arena, maybe even for Clan Boss if you're tuning him right. There's some specific comps that could work with Skratch. Maybe unbooked Skratch if you're doing a 2-to-1 ratio team or something like that. Interesting champion. He could be great for the Iron Twins Fortress with the decreased speed and everything else that he brings in. I like the passive with the block damage, kind of like helping him to stay alive, but if the damage exceeds his maximum HP, he's gonna die, you know. That's why I wish it would be something like Skull Crown instead. The next faction, the Skinwalkers. Here we only have one champion, Basher. I used to love this champion back in the day. Even now he's pretty powerful if you don't own a Warlord or a Yumeko. And mainly for Arena, crowd control on waves for faction wars, or a Doom Tower waves if needed, because attacks all enemies increases the cooldown of all of the target skills by 2 turns. So that allows you to kind of like rotate a bit around, stop the enemy from doing their main skills, and then either crowd control them or either slowly killing them before they actually get to use their main skills, you know. So Basher is still a solid option. Moving over to the Orcs faction. Now right here we have quite a strong epic champion, Seer. The #1 PvE nuker in the entire game, and she's an epic. We do have Taras, the new Void legendary that got added last month. He's very powerful too, and they work similar, right? The more buffs they have, the more damage they do. Considering that she's an epic, it's easier to kind of like get her, easier to build her in order to do the same amount of damage that Taras would do. She's the #1 wave slayer in the entire game. You want to make sure you have 100% crit rate on her. Even if you're gonna buff crit rate with other champions, she's gonna remove the buffs, then she's gonna deal the damage. So she's gonna lose the crit rate if you don't have full crit rate on her. Very powerful champion. Give her crit damage, as much crit damage, full crit rate, and she's gonna destroy. She doesn't need attack or anything else. Tuhak the Wanderer. Great for faction wars, great for wave control, great for dungeon progression, great for Doom Tower progression. Attacks one enemy 2 times. He does quite a few things. Like, he has a massive wall of text right here, guys, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna be able to go and check this for yourself. Kind of like get the idea of what to do with him. Decrease speed AoE, very powerful as well for wave control, how I mentioned. Right here, steals the Thermometer, has a chance to land a stun, so he can do a lot of work when we are talking about controlling waves, you know, controlling enemies. And he's an attack-based champion. Give him some damage, accuracy, let him do the work, and just sit back and relax. Tolf the Maimed. I would not invest in this champion even if you hold a gun at my head, okay? This is probably the worst Void epic champion in the entire game. He just doesn't do nothing, okay? You might get tricked thinking that he's gonna do something with this skill, but he doesn't, okay? If your faction guardians is filled, keep one copy. Maybe he's gonna get buffed one day, but do not level one of them up because he's gonna be useless, okay? I've tested him quite a bit. A lot of people did, and he's pretty disappointing. Liburga, you can get this champion from the Doom Tower secret rooms only on normal mode. She's one of the last few epic champions that we can collect from there. She's an amazing poisoner. Great for the dragon dungeon, great for clan boss. Every now and then we have events that require us to do specific dungeons with specific factions of champions to get the rewards. And sometimes we actually need to use Orcs, and she is so damn powerful for the dragon dungeon as an idea. With the poisons, the passive is pretty nice to increase attack, increase defense on all the allies, poison sensitivity. Top-notch epic champion. I really like this epic champion. There are not many strong champions that are coming from the Doom Tower, but she is definitely one of them. Moving over to the next faction, and that is the Demonspawn. Here we have a few Void epics as well. We have Padma. She used to be much better before, but since she got power crept as well, on the A1 she has a chance to land decreased attack AoE if the attack is critical. This used to be amazing for clan boss, great pretty much for waves, every single boss in the game. Like, if you have decreased attack, you're definitely increasing your chance of surviving. Then we have AoE attack and a chance to land decreased accuracy. This could have been good for some waves, Doom Tower waves especially, where they're with higher accuracy and stuff. But it's pretty hard to justify using the champion now, considering how many other awesome champions we have available. I can still recommend you to use her in faction wars 100%. On some Doom Tower waves, maybe even in Hydra if you need. At least on the early progression Hydra, she has a chance to remove all buffs from the target and steals them basically. Defense-based champion, she's pretty tanky. She's a decent champion, but she's not what she used to be before. Umbral Enchantress, probably one of the best champion that lands block debuffs on the enemies. She can do that for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown AoE, guys, okay? That's very powerful. No other champion in the game can do that. Amazing for Hydra, amazing for faction wars, especially on stage 21. And if you need a champion for arena to kind of like piss off the enemies, this skill right here will do it. Attacks all enemies, fully booked, will place a provoke for 2 turns on all the enemies and places an unkillable buff on herself. She can be very annoying, awesome crowd control champion, very powerful as an epic champion. Skimfos the Consumed, not very impressed with him, but he can serve his purpose, you know. Attacks one enemy 2 times, decrease speed. This actually makes him pretty decent for the Fire Knight. The second hit has a chance to decrease the Thermometer. So if you're struggling with some progression there, attacks all enemies for landing decreased attack. After attacking, transfers all the debuffs to the enemies, except the crowd control ones. And transfers all debuffs from this champion to a target enemy, then attacks the target and steals 100% of the target's Thermometer if this attack is critical. Even better for the Fire Knight dungeon, great for the Spider dungeon as well if you are looking to get some Thermometer manipulation on the bosses. And interesting passive as well, attack aura for Doom Tower though. And he can be good for faction wars as well, especially on the boss, you know, where you want to get some Thermometer manipulation. Moving over to the next faction, ladies and gentlemen, this one doesn't have any Void epic champions. I'm always wondering, when is it gonna happen, you know, like, are they ever gonna do a Void Undead epic champion or no? Then we have the Dark Elves. We have Lua. She was decent as well as a damage dealer before, AoE on the A2, and attacks the enemy 3 times. Great for the Fire Knight. The A1 is not as powerful for the Fire Knight, but this can become AoE as well. And this one depletes the target's Termiter, ignores shield, and block damage. She can deal decent damage, don't get me wrong. She can be useful. Termiter manipulation on the Spider. If you need Termiter manipulation on Faction Wars, throw her on a stun set. She's gonna do some work on Faction Wars as well if you give her the full crit rate and everything that she needs. Give her some accuracy, she's gonna do some work for you. And yeah, definitely not a bad champion. She's not that amazing either, but is a decent one. Sylar. I definitely prefer her over Lua in terms of Termiter manipulation and kind of like run her on stun sets. We have 3 AoE attacks. The A3 doesn't actually hit, but places decreased speed and decreased Termiter on all the enemies. A stun set on her is actually amazing. For Arena, if you want to catch your enemies off guard, give her a lot of speed, you know, and kind of like allow her to land the decreased speed and the decreased Termiter on the enemies. Stun set for Faction Wars, or if you need some crowd control on the Spider as well. She can be pretty good in quite a few places. The next champion, Madame Series, the GOAT, legendary champion in disguise. What can I say about Madame Series? She's probably super powerful for Arena still. If you're not doing Platinum, she's definitely very powerful. For Platinum Arena, she is not being used anymore actually because of all the blessings that are in the game at the moment with the polymorph and all that. She debuffs, she steals all the buffs, so that has a very high chance of getting shipped, you know. Steals buffs from the enemies, places fear. Not that powerful for PvE content though. You can use her if you don't have better options, but I feel like there are many better options like Stag Knight, or using different champions to land decrease attack, defense down, and decrease speed on a 3-turn cooldown instead of 4. But she can be pretty good to strip the buffs for Faction Wars and stuff like that, you know. The next faction, the Night Revenants. We have Skullcrown. Still one of my favorite epic nukers in the game. My most favorite epic nuker. We have a speed aura for Arena. Then we have AoE on the A1 with the extra hit if the target has more than 50% HP. A weaken on the A2, tons of damage. Unkillable when she drops her HP below 20. And when she's with Sinesha in the same team, she is gonna get revived. Amazing for Faction Wars. I have one on a stun set, one on Savage. I'm using more the one on a stun set actually, for a wave control and just to deal some damage. Great for secret rooms in the Doom Tower. You can use her as your main nuker for Arena as well if you're kind of like progressing or in 3v3. You can definitely find some uses for Skullcrown, 100%. Golden Reaper, she has one of the highest base speed in the game for an epic champion, 111. She boosts the Termiter. She can be used as a Termiter booster for Arena. In Faction Wars, I feel like you can definitely have better options, you know, like AoE attack decreases the attack on all enemies on a 4-turn cooldown. Right here has a chance to decrease the cooldown of a random skill for an ally, so it's not that wow. If you don't have any better Termiter booster, she can definitely be used, you know. I wish like she would give an increased attack with the other skill or something, but hey, she's gonna give you increased speed. If you have a Gorgorap and a Golden Reaper, kind of like combine them together, you're getting increased attack. You have double Termiter booster, and like this, you're gonna make sure the enemies are not gonna cut on your nukers, you know. Pretty good for Arena, but that's the main thing that I would recommend her for. Whisper. She is gonna deal a lot of damage. Now this is a damage dealer. If you're struggling with the Faction Wars, you're struggling with the damage, definitely consider in taking her in. Great for some of the bosses to deal damage if needed. And she can be used in clan boss as well on some unkillable teams. Now, when we are talking about these sort of champions and unkillable teams, they need to have solid gear to do solid damage, you know, so keep that in mind as well. But she can definitely put in some damage. Moving over to the next faction, the Dwarves. Right here we have quite a few Void Epic champions. Runekeeper, great for support, right? He's gonna give us the increased attack. He's gonna boost the Termiter. He's gonna cleanse. He's gonna give us a heal. Massive carry, okay, massive carry in dungeons as a support. Even for Arena, he can be very powerful too, because of the cleanse, the Termiter boost, the increased attack. If you have a speed aura from somebody else, he's definitely gonna do the work. Faction Wars, if you need some Doom Tower secret rooms help as well, definitely a pretty solid champion. I would definitely recommend you to build one of these bad boys if you're getting one and you need help in any of these areas. Further, Fellhammer. I only see his potential for the Fire Knight, okay? I made a guide ages ago on this champion too. We have heal reduction, double hit there, we have a triple hit here, and places counter attack on himself. He's not that powerful in terms of doing raw DPS, you know? And because of it, I don't see him as useful for other sort of content. You could potentially use him for Hydra if you want to build him with resistance, and because he buffs himself, the rest are not going to have the buff, so the Head of Mischief is going to target him. But you can definitely find better options for that instead of him, you know, like champions that are actually bringing more benefits to your fight, basically. Gala Long Braids, what a beast, guys, what a beast. Actually, quite a few people are using her every now and then in Platinum Arena, even now in 2023, guys. Gala Long Braids, she is the absolute GOAT. Triple hitter right here ignores a lot of defense. Right here, a single hit ignores defense. This grants an extra turn too, if the champion is on full HP. And this a double hitter too. She can be nice for the Fire Knight. Her animations are just too slow. She is huge for faction wars when we're talking about killing bosses and waves. And other dungeons as well if you need help to kill the waves and do raw damage on bosses, you know. But how I mentioned, mainly Arena. That's kind of like her speciality. Brugnor Goldgleam, very solid for the Barrier comp as an unkillable. He can do damage, enough damage to get to a 1-key Ultra Nightmare actually. We have a Leech on the A1. Right here, this is a bit of a more complicated skill that could potentially mess up a lot of other comps out there if you're not switching this skill off. But then he has increased attack, weaken, and defense down. That's kind of like the main thing that he does. Attack aura for Doom Tower. I wouldn't really consider him an amazing champion for faction wars or dungeons, but if you need a defense down and weaken on the Spider dungeon to kind of like knock it down with enemy max HP hitters or anything like that, he can definitely do the work. Demita, another GOAT. Like, we know it. Unkillable, block damage, amazing for clan boss. She can be amazing for speed tune teams, for dungeons as well, for faction wars if you need some support. She brings some healing as well with the A2, increases the duration of all buffs. We have a defense aura for all battles. We have a bit of a shield with the A1. It's actually a pretty solid epic champion, man. The continuous heal and the block damage on a 3-turn cooldown is very powerful, 100%. Moving over to the next one, we have the Shadowkin. We're getting near the end here. We have Oboro. She can make her A1 AoE if she attacks a target that has more than 4 debuffs, and she has a chance to land defense down. Attacks one enemy 2 times. She has a chance to transfer all the debuffs from the champion, and then she has a chance to steal all the buffs from the target when she's under Veil or Perfect Veil, and she's gonna place that with the A3 with an increased crit rate and an increased crit damage buff on the champion. Now, she's great as a mischief target for the Hydra clan boss. Great for faction wars. Other than that, she doesn't really bring that much utility. Nothing special, but she can be used in other places as well if you need a bit of damage and stuff like that, you know. And she has the revive that with the passive right here. Pretty nice to keep her alive when needed. And attack aura for all dungeons. 33% is actually pretty huge. The next champion, Gamebo the Dishonored. Amazing nuker for Arena, faction wars. He is one of the most unique nukers in the game because he is immune to decreased attack debuffs. He's gonna ignore unkillable when he has increased attack. He places increased crit rate and increased crit damage on the champion, then grants an extra turn and moves over into an AoE skill. Very nasty. His multipliers are a 4.0. He can deal solid damage. He's not as powerful for Platinum Arena though, considering the current meta, all the tanky champions and everything else. But for earlier Arena, he's gonna be the GOAT. Definitely invest in him if you have one. Taya, you can get her from Doom Tower as well. Decreased accuracy on the A1, that can be great for the Bommel. On the A2, attacks one enemy 3 times. She will place poisons. This can be good for the clan boss, can be good for the dragon. How I mentioned, sometimes we have specific tournaments that require us to use specific champions from specific factions, okay, in order to get the event done. And we have right here instantly activates the poison debuffs or HP burn on the target, and raises heal reduction. This could potentially be good on the Fire Knight, but I feel like the rest is not really shouting Fire Knight kit, you know. Decent champion. You're only gonna get one copy of this, so make sure you're not feeding them because, hey, you're never gonna be able to get these champions again. You cannot summon them, the ones that are coming from the Doom Tower. Moving over to the last faction, the Sylvan Watchers, we only have one Void champion in here, White Dryad Nia. Very, very interesting champion. Very nice base stats, defense-based champion too. Attacks all enemies, we have decreased speed. Huge potential for crowd control, you know. On a stun set as well, can do some work. Faction Wars, Doom Tower, the Iron Twins Fortress, if you need a decreased speed champion. Removes all debuffs from a target ally, heals them, and then if the target of this skill is not this champion, will decrease the cooldown of the target's ally skills by 2 turns. All of the skills. Very, very nice, you know. It's hard to tune it in a clan boss team, but not impossible. And then you have ally protection and strengthen on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. You see, so much better than a Towering Titan, for example. And we have a pretty interesting passive too. These are all the Void Epic Champions reviewed in 2023, guys. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these epics is your favorite. I gotta say, I have a couple of favorites. That's Seer and Godseeker Aniri. I'm very curious to hear your own favorite epic champions, Void Epic Champions actually. I wish you luck to pull some of these champions today if you're opening any shards. But that was all for this video. Much love, appreciate all of you guys watching, and I'll catch you all soon in the next one. Peace.